is the Wrestlebread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? My name is Jaydee, and thank you for listening to the Wrestlebread Podcast. This is episode 7. So let's just get into some breaking news. According to the Wrestling Observer Radio, they stated that WWE will not release any wrestler that may sign with AEW. They reportedly signed Goldberg out of fear that he may join AEW. And this explains what's going on with Sasha Banks, Luke Harper, and Revival. And as you already know, WWE has added time to Luke Harper and the Revival's contracts for injuries. And they'll probably do the same thing with Sasha Banks. Since she has been gone since WrestleMania, they could add that time to her contract at the end of her contract. It's reported that she had signed last year, and it may have been a 3-year contract. So this past month or so that she has been gone, more likely they will add it on to the end of the contract. And it's a shame that they're doing all this, that they're signing people just to keep them away from AEW, because it's a waste of talent. For example, Rhino, who is not re-signing his contract, WWE offered him double his pay and pretty much was going to have him sitting at home. And he had said on an interview that he wants to be on the road. He wants to be able to help the younger talent. If he could find the next John Cena, the next Stone Cold, that he wants to be there to help them out. WWE, obviously, Vince McMahon, is looking to hide away the talent just for his own personal needs. We'll see what happens with their usage of Goldberg. He is definitely going to be at the Saudi Arabia show. They may be using him a few times on Raw to set up whatever match they're going to put him in. But speaking of AEW, Cody Rhodes came out with a new episode of the Road to Double or Nothing this week, and they had renamed the Over the Budget Battle Royale to the Casino Battle Royale. So it will be 21 wrestlers with over the top rope eliminations, and the way it works is that each wrestler will pick a card from a deck, and the suit will determine what group they're in. The match will start out with 5 men, so they'll say, the Hearts group, the Diamonds group, the Clubs group, or the Spades group. Those 5 men will start, and in every 3 minutes, a new wave of 5 men will enter. And the one wrestler who drew the Joker card will be Lucky 21 and will be coming out last. Cody Rhodes also mentioned that the prize for the Casino Battle Royale is that the winner will be the number 1 contender and will have the first shot at the new AEW champion. Now, they didn't say who will become the AEW champion, how this match will come about, and how the new champion will be crowned. And they did not really go into detail of how the men will enter with the wave of 5 men. Will they come out one at a time? Will they come out all at the same time? But we'll see what happens at Double or Nothing on May 25th. But some of the participants that will be in the Battle Royale are Sonny Kiss, Jimmy Havoc, Billy Gunn, Brian Pillman Jr., Glacier, Jungle Boy, Michael Nakazawa, MJF, Johnny Janela, and recently added Dustin Thomas. Dustin Thomas was introduced on this episode of The Road to Nothing. He is actually a wrestler who was born without any legs. And he debuted last September at the Joey Janela Spring Break Part 1. And I actually watched that match after I saw this episode of The Road to Double or Nothing. And Dustin Thomas has such an amazing story that despite his disability, he did not let it stop him from becoming a wrestler. And just because he doesn't have legs doesn't mean he can't do some exciting moves. He did a 450 splash. He even did the 619. So I'm very excited to see Dustin Thomas and everyone else in this Battle Royale. Like I said, I don't really watch the indies, so a lot of people I do not know, and I'll be watching for the first time. So unfortunately, you will not see me do a preview of Double or Nothing, but I will definitely do a review to give you guys my opinion for seeing these wrestlers for the first time. And as a reminder, what the current card will be at Double or Nothing, it will be Hangman Page versus Pac, the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers for the AAA World Tag Team Championship, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes, SoCal Uncensored versus SEMA, T-Hawk, and L. Littleman, and then a triple threat match featuring Dr. Britt Baker versus Kylie Ray versus Nyla Rose. So, very excited to see what's going to happen at Double or Nothing come May 25th. Now, another news that has broken recently is that the XFL has reached a TV deal with ESPN and Fox. Sports Illustrated broke this news. The season will start in February of 2020 and it will have 10 games. There will be 2 games on Saturday and 2 games on Sunday. So like Vince McMahon had stated in 2018 when he introduced the XFL, the games will be faster, safer, fan-centric, and will be played in less than 3 hours. He said it will not be like the old XFL. The former XFL only lasted one short season and was canceled due to the low ratings. Now, with the new XFL, the lead commissioner is Oliver Luck, who is a former NFL quarterback and is Andrew Luck's father. And he stated that the name is no longer Extreme Football League, but the X is a variable and it could mean anything. For, like he said in the article, it could mean excellent or exceptional. But he did went on to say that he does not know what the corporate response will be for what the X mean. But we'll see if it's a success this time. Like we see with WWE, Vince McMahon can be stubborn and like to have all the power and all the control of his company. Maybe he'll hit the nail on the head because he does have competition with the NFL. I'm a football fan, so I'm excited to see football during the off season. We recently did have the AAF, which is the Alliance of American Football, and that only lasted for 8 weeks before it was canceled as well. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Vince McMahon will be on to something. Maybe this will crash and burn like the ratings of WWE. But I will get to that at a later point. Another news that broke recently too is that Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley, will be in a movie. Now, Deadline had broke the news on this movie. Dean Ambrose / Jon Moxley, whose real name is Jonathan Good, will be joining the cast of a MMA-themed action called Cage Fighter. So the movie is currently in pre-production, but the film tells a story about an MMA champion who unexpectedly loses a heavily promoted match to a professional wrestling star, making his crossover debut in the MMA fighting world. Humiliated by defeat, he must fight his way back to the top and earn his place for a rematch. So the movie is starring real-life MMA fighter and actor Josh Herdman, who was in Harry Potter, alongside with Michael J. White, who has been in a lot of movies, including Universal's Soldier. There's a lot of other wrestling connections with this movie. One of the executive producers of this flick is actually Christian from Edge and Christian. Now, the last time we seen Jon Moxley in a movie, it was in WWE's 12 Rounds 3 Lockdown back in 2015. So very interested to see this movie. It kind of sort of sounds like it's playing real life as far as maybe possibly a Brock Lesnar type of storyline, but we'll see how this goes. I wish Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, aka Jonathan Good, all the luck in the world, especially now that he is no longer with WWE. We've seen recently that he dropped a video that really didn't tell much of his upcoming plans, but at least we know that he'll be doing a movie, so much luck to Dean Ambrose. So, my weekly segment this week, like I had teased about with my last episode, is what is the difference between Sasha Banks walking out this recent WrestleMania and CM Punk walking out after the Royal Rumble back in 2014? So, a bit of disclosure, this is just based off of rumors with Sasha because she has yet to tell her side of the story of what is going on. She did tweet out a few things, but it could mean anything. Some of these rumors you kind of have to take as a grain of salt because with WWE, the people who are spreading these rumors could be spinning the facts just to make WWE look good and to make Sasha Banks look bad. Now, shout out to the Bleacher Report because they gave a full timeline of everything that happened with CM Punk and Cage Side Seats for doing the transcription of CM Punk's take of what happened to him on the Art of Wrestling podcast. Now, starting with CM Punk, his frustration mainly started with the Summer of Punk when he famously cut the promo that he was going to leave WWE, but he actually secretly re-signed his contract. Now, because he became so popular, he went on to face John Cena for the title in Chicago. Who could forget that match? Won the championship. He was on top of the division, top of wrestling. He was the hottest thing ever. Now, of course, that came crashing down at first when he faced Triple H and pretty much lost for no reason. Now, he was the champ for a very long time, and he was treated that way with the fans, but he never really main evented. Now, CM Punk's main issue, his main goal, was that he wanted to main event WrestleMania, and he was willing to do whatever it took. And it's not really a crazy demand. Everyone wants to main event WrestleMania. But the thing was, back in 2011, 2012, and 2013, was that John Cena had always main evented, even if he didn't have the title. Now, at the Elimination Chamber back in 2012, John Cena faced Kane in an ambulance match that took the main event spot. Cena versus Rock headlined WrestleMania 28, even though CM Punk had the title, and his title defense against Chris Jericho was lower down on the card. Cena versus Lesnar was Extreme Rules main event, and then at Over the Limit, it was John Laurinaitis versus John Cena instead of CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan for the title. Another frustration that CM Punk had was that he had a lot of injuries, but according to him, whenever he got injured, he would come back too soon. He had suffered an elbow injury that was supposed to take, it was either an elbow or a knee that was supposed to take a recovery of 4 to 6 weeks, and he actually came back within 2 to 3 weeks. And he always kept putting over part-timers. The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, The Rock, people who fought him once and then left the other day. But it wasn't exactly all about CM Punk. He was trying to put other people over. He did present the idea of the Shield according to him, and he wanted Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and possibly Chris Hero and Cassius Ohno. Of course, as you know, Roman Reigns took the place of Chris Hero and Cassius Ohno. He also wanted Daniel Bryan to be put over. He was very happy that Daniel Bryan got his spot at WrestleMania 30 instead of Batista versus Randy Orton. Now, Paul Heyman had said that CM Punk was always unhappy. He had enough. He couldn't take it anymore, and it was just a slow build for the past couple of years. A year before he walked, there were daily conversations of, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to take this. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. Paul Heyman painted a picture of a man who had long lost his passion for wrestling, and he was not surprised in the least that CM Punk has left. So the reason behind CM Punk leaving, according to his words, is because of the injuries. The fact that he busted his ass, he put everything on the line for WWE, and he couldn't even main event. That the part-timers were coming in and taking the spots for a lot of the younger wrestlers. And he was frustrated with creative, not Vince McMahon mainly, telling him, if you do this, I'll owe you one. If you do this, I'll owe you one. And never did anything to repay him back. The day that CM Punk walked out, it was due to the frustration. He was still upset at the fact that Triple H had beat him back towards the end of Summer Punk, and that they never let him really shine like he should have. Now, with Sasha Banks, unfortunately, with Sasha Banks, there's not that much that we heard backstage of really her being very frustrated with creative, besides what happened at WrestleMania. She always smiled, rarely showed displeasure. We all knew that she couldn't have been happy with the short title reigns, for example. Even though she is a 3-4 time title holder, her reigns were always around 27 days. Now, her main roster reign, of course, is the exact opposite of her in NXT. And in my opinion, with what she has went through these past couple of years, was only a piece of what CM Punk went through. Now, people feel as though she is self-absorbed and comes off as a bit whiny because it's about her and not her trying to put over other talent. But she is in the history books, so she was in the first women's Hell in a Cell, first women's match to main event a pay-per-view, first 30-minute Iron Woman's match, first ever women's match contested in the Middle East. So she is in the history books. But she did find out last minute that her and Bayley were not going to not only lose the titles that day, but that they were splitting them up, which means that they will never be able to win the titles back. Now, Booker T on his podcast has spoke about Sasha Banks, and he said, quote, "I don't write the script, and that is one of the reasons why I am here today. I never really cared about what the script was. Give it to me and let me go out and get it done. If it was something I didn't disagree with, I was going to go out there and get it done. If I had disagreed with it, I would have said, hey, I don't agree with this. Let's change this because I'm not doing it this way. Then they would change it, and that is the way business has always been done with me. I can't say that with everybody, but with me, that was how it was done. I never looked at pro wrestling any other way than being entertainment. I never looked at it like it was anything but storylines. I never looked at it like it was anything but Shakespeare with Romeo and Juliet, Phantom of the Opera. I never looked at it any other way than everyone getting their turn. But I must say that Sasha Banks has had a lot of success. How many women get in the business that never win?" Now, I agree a little bit with what he say. I don't think you should always turn the other cheek and sit there and smile and not say that you have a problem with anything, because if you don't say what you have a problem with, then the problem will never change. Now, he has the point of the fact that, yes, Sasha Banks has had a lot of success, and there are other women in the business that never had the success that Sasha Banks had. Now, Sasha Banks did a lot for the women's division. Like I said, all the first that she did, and she had a lot of injuries too. And I just feel like maybe she went through the same thing with CM Punk of having an injury and possibly coming back too soon. The speculation is that what she is frustrated with is actually long term, because she wanted to have the women's tag team titles and bring credibility to it, and that they wanted a long title reign. So, of course, like her singles title reign, they didn't really have that much of a title reign. It lasted just under 60 days. But the fact that they'll be dropping the titles is to not exactly the Iconics, because it's being said that she actually does like the Iconics. But the fact that they're dropping the titles so fast, they're not bringing that much credibility to the titles. So it seems like that Vince McMahon only created the titles and gave it to Sasha Banks and Bayley to shut them up. So, is the walkout between Sasha Banks and CM Punk the same? At first, I admit, I wasn't exactly on board with Sasha Banks leaving. I was one of the people that felt as though it was a bit selfish that she walked out the way that she did. I don't believe the rumor that she laid on the floor and loudly spoke her displeasure. I think that she had said her piece and possibly was like, you know what, I'm done. Which is why the WWE gave her time off to think about it so they don't potentially lose her and have her sign with AEW. But after doing this research, because I asked myself the question, the way that we treated Sasha Banks with her walking out and the way we treated CM Punk with walking out are two different ways. So after doing this type of research, seeing what CM Punk went through and what led him to walking out at the point in 2014, and looking at with Sasha Banks, even though I had to go off of rumors and speculations, until she tells her own story, we could only think and, assume what she went through. But in my opinion, it seems like Sasha Banks and CM Punk kind of went through the same thing. Sasha Banks always wanted to bring credibility to the titles and not play hot potato with the title. CM Punk wanted to bring credibility to full-time wrestlers by not having to put over part-time wrestlers all the time. Sasha Banks just wanted a chance, she had a lot of firsts, but she at least wanted a chance for the women's division to be at the top of the game. CM Punk wanted to be at the top of the game as well. Now, unfortunately, as we saw this week, the focus on the women's division is starting to disappear. The way that the women's division was put on top with Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, it seems that now we're back to multi-women tag team matches and short little segments that doesn't really bring credibility to the women's division. Now, hopefully with the pressure from the Fox move, that the women's division will somehow get more attention. But I'm not holding my breath because we all know how it is with Vince and the women's division. But speaking of what happened this week, I'm going to go over the best and worst of Raw and SmackDown. Now, topping it off, McMahon is losing it. We all know that the ratings have been going down. We all know how much Raw has been declining as far as its content for not only the past couple of weeks, but for the past couple of years. And it all started with Roman Reigns saying on Twitter that he is going to show up to Raw because he has, quote unquote, some business to take care of. WWE tweeted out saying that WWE officials declined for Roman Reigns to come on Raw because he is a SmackDown superstar, which Roman Reigns told them to get his music ready because he's going to kick off Raw. And Roman Reigns, in fact, did show up. He showed up, and with Vince McMahon in the ring, they exchanged a few words, and then Daniel Bryan shows up. And then Kofi Kingston shows up. And it's like, okay, we have all these SmackDown people on Raw. And then Vince McMahon had an epiphany. And he said, let's call this the wild card rule. 3 people from Raw will go to SmackDown. And 3 people from SmackDown will go to Raw. And we created a whole article on WWE.com saying that unauthorized jumps between the brands would be fined or possibly fired, which we all know is going to go into storyline. But this wild card rule is called AKA We Need Help. Now, according to the Wrestling Observer, this is in response to the networks putting pressure on Vince McMahon due to the low ratings. Now, Vince allegedly didn't want to give up having separate rosters on separate shows, but Fox, who will get SmackDown in October, and NBC Universal, who owns the USA Network, which of course shows Raw and SmackDown, want WWE's biggest stars working both shows. Mesler said Fox wanted more storylines that are going to be on both Raw and SmackDown. NBC Universal was very upset about the ratings, especially in the third hour, and was asking questions about Our ratings are this, this, and this. Why are we giving away Roman Reigns? So there's pressure for top stars to work both shows. So it'll be different guys. I guess it'll be 4 guys on both shows in theory. So originally was 3 people that was supposed to jump brands, but Lars Sullivan later on went into Vince McMahon's office and silently convinced Vince McMahon to make it 4 people. Unfortunately, I don't know what this is going to mean with the shows. Because of the wild card rule, we did get a couple of good matches out of this. We did get the rematch of Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. We also got Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. And we also had, as I'll speak a little bit later, a few other matches on SmackDown as well. I just hope that we don't have the issue that we had before the brand split, where most of the show is concentrated on 2 to 3 guys, because for some reason WWE just doesn't know how to concentrate on more than the top guys. The great thing about the brand split was that SmackDown, because it was the quote-unquote B show, became a fan favorite because it featured more people. It became the land of opportunity. We had Bray Wyatt as champion. I mean, who would have guessed that Bray Wyatt would have actually been given the title? I mean, we all wanted Bray Wyatt to win the title, but the fact that he actually won the title and had a bit of a title reign at that. The tag team division was more concentrated on SmackDown. The women's division had a little bit more time on SmackDown. It was truly the land of opportunity. And now that we're getting Raw superstars onto SmackDown, it's going to feel like part of the show is Raw all over again. We'll see what happens with this. I really hope that people on the roster will still get time to shine. But the main event match between Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston was superb. Of course, it didn't have the feel that it did at WrestleMania, but Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston really work good together. They have great chemistry. They know how to put on a good match. And Daniel Bryan, damn it, he is so good. And I will talk about that later. The downfall, the revival, what the fuck? And the Usos. And this is the tale of 2 Usos. Now, on Raw, they are now, I guess, high school bullies, because last week they had a video where they showed the revival. One was shaving the other's back. And now this week we had Ucey hot. And it just felt like we're reverting back to the Usos back when they were on Raw. It's a bit crazy because you're sitting there wondering, what did the revival do storyline wise to deserve all this? All it was that the Usos and the revival are about to get into a feud, and then the Usos just pop out of this. It doesn't make you want to cheer for the babyface because they're doing all these things to the heel out of nowhere. But it kind of was the same thing that Vince had Braun Strowman do with Kevin Owens. I mean, they got into a feud, and then Braun Strowman just started terrorizing Kevin Owens out of nowhere. It just makes me feel like Vince McMahon's trying to make us, I don't know, like he think that we're not smart or something, because we're looking at this and we're asking, well, what did the revival do to deserve this? I can see this type of action going on with like the Lucha House Party and Heath Slater, for example. Like those type of segments, as another point, belong to comedy type tag teams or a comedy segment. The Usos and the Revival are great tag teams. The awesome wrestling feud that we can get out of this will be will be better than the Usos versus the New Day. But unfortunately, we will never be able to see it at its highest potential because we are being dumbed down to Ucey hot and shaving each other's back. And Bleacher Report also said when they were in their article of reviewing Raw, two of the most gifted tag teams of their generation are engaged in a feud over back shaving and Ucey hot. Let that sink in for a moment, then ask yourself why Raw is suffering low ratings. And I completely agree with that statement. The reason why Raw is going through low ratings is because we're not getting the wrestling. I mean, look at the difference with NXT, even with SmackDown. You're getting the wrestling. We'll never get away from the promos. We won't, unfortunately. A big part of the show will be backstage segments and promos. But the one thing that we really want and need is wrestling. WWE is starting to turn into a show about a wrestling show. You know, it's not really the wrestling. Like, we're not getting the feuds. Now, of course, you know, back in the Attitude Era, yes, we still had promos, but when it came to the wrestling part was good, you know? The fact that we're not getting the Usos versus the Revival, or even showing the two tag teams in their potential, in their prime, is robbing not only the hardcore fans that have seen the Revival in NXT, that have seen the Usos on SmackDown and actually know what their value is, but it's robbing the casual viewer who don't even know the Revival, who don't even know the Revival's potential. There are, you know, the casuals don't, most of the casuals probably don't watch NXT. And they're looking at the Revival since their debut on the main roster as a bit of a joke type of tag team, as a tag team to not even be taken seriously. And I really hope that, you know, eventually casual viewers will watch NXT and will watch, you know, the greatest moments and things like that and see what the Revival actually did and to know what they have been missing this whole time. Now, of course, we all know that the Revival declined to re-sign with WWE, so this is more likely a ploy by Vince McMahon to be petty and to embarrass them on their way out of the door. Dave Mesler from the Wrestling Observer also stated this as well. He said that the goal with what WWE is doing with the Revival is to devalue them as much as possible before they leave. Unfortunately for WWE, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder took this segment and ran with it. Scott Dawson stole the moment for me because the way he acted, pretty much overreacted. I mean, there was one point where when he took a self bump, he did a flip onto the stage and then started to roll away to the back. That I actually started laughing at that point because they're being straight professional. I mean, any other company that is watching that segment, knowing the backstory and seeing the way Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder are handling this, it makes you want to sign them even more. So Vince McMahon is thinking that by embarrassing them, people are going to look at them and say, I don't want to sign them. When in fact, people who are smart enough to know that the Revival is actually a good tag team and seeing how professional they are, that they're getting shit, literally, and stealing the show with it, it's going to make you want to sign them, because if the Revival is taking this segment and doing their best with it to make it look good, what do you think they're going to do if they get something good? They're going to take it and they're going to shoot it to the fucking moon. The thing that pisses me off too is that Dash Wilder was the one who Mike Tyson, that stupid idiot who ran in during the Hall of Fame ceremony and attacked Bret Hart and Natalya. And this is the things that he gets because he refused to re-sign with your company. I mean, he was one of the ones who ran into the ring to protect your legend. And I know deep down, Vince McMahon really think these type of jokes is really funny. Because in the same, on Raw as well, we had Sami Zayn cutting a promo, and Braun Strowman came out, chased Sami Zayn around, took Sami Zayn and dumped him into a dumpster. WWE logic. Who knows? Who knows what creative writer wrote this out and someone was like, you know what, scratch it. We're going to have the truck just drive forward and collect the trash, and then we're going to have Sami Zayn show up miraculously on SmackDown, and then that's a whole other story because that resulted in some other jokes as well. But like I said, Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan Part 2 was very good. Daniel Bryan, of course, lost, but we're seeing Kofi Kingston defend his title and see him saying that he is a fighting champion. And you just have that feeling that he is defending his championship and he's a fighting champion, and that he will eventually lose his title to Kevin Owens at Money in the Bank. But speaking of that, let's go on to SmackDown. Now, the wild cards for SmackDown who came from Raw was AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, The Miz, The Usos, and Lars Sullivan. So that's actually 5 people from Raw that showed up on SmackDown, but who's counting, Who is counting? But with SmackDown, we got the tale of the 2 Usos. The Usos on Raw, who is promoting Ucey Hot, and then we get the Usos on SmackDown that is straight back to Welcome to the Uso Penitentiary and kind of rapping a little bit, and I was fine with it. I loved the Usos when they were on SmackDown. And we had Shane McMahon about to present the tag team titles to Daniel Bryan and Rowan when the Usos came out, challenged them to a match. Of course, Daniel Bryan and Rowan won the titles because I don't know, it wouldn't have made any sense for the Usos to win a title because they would have to go back to SmackDown, to Raw anyway. But, like I said, Daniel Bryan is so fucking awesome. He is so great as a heel. Who would have thought 5 years ago that the little baby face that was shot to the moon by the fans will turn out to be such a great heel? Now, this was shown on WWE.com. They interviewed Daniel Bryan after the match and asked him about him winning the tag team title. And Daniel Bryan said this, and this is a bit long, but the thing about Daniel Bryan is every sentence he speaks, he doesn't waste words. So everything he says it for a reason. So he says, there's a lot of joking around in the tag team division apparently. Like it's a joke. Like I'm not going to have these change. But speaking of jokes, speaking of the tag team division, think of the Usos, right? What were they doing on Raw last night? Joking around as if the tag team division was some sort of joke. And what about Heavy Machinery? Joking around as if the tag team division is some sort of joke. And what about the New Day? Joking around like being the tag team champions is some sort of joke. They talk about a women's evolution, about women main eventing WrestleMania. You know who has never talked about main eventing WrestleMania? It's the tag team division. And do you know why? Because for years, they have been led by jokers like the New Day, like the Usos, like Heavy Machinery. And they go out there and they do Thanksgiving turkey fights. And they'll do Halloween contests. You know what? We are not those type of tag team champions. Speaking of which, you know what? There's going to be a tag team evolution. This isn't going to be one dictated to us by the McMahons. No. This is going to be a self-led tag team evolution. Because Kofi Kingston, the New Day, they never aspired to do that. They never aspired to that level. Neither did the Usos. They were content to just be great tag teams. We're not content to be just to be great. We're going to be the greatest tag team of all time. We're going to main event WrestleMania as tag team champions. And we are going to aspire higher. And nobody is going to stop the planet's tag team champions. Why are we booing this man? Seriously, why are we booing this guy? This Daniel Bryan is a national treasure. He really is. who thinks of winning the tag team titles and saying, I'm going to main event WrestleMania? Maybe my mind is drawing a blank because I am marking out about this promo by Daniel Bryan, but I don't think I've heard a tag team saying they're going to main event WrestleMania. Just awesome. Awesome, awesome. The awesomeness of Daniel Bryan, ladies and gentlemen. You can't boo the guy. You really can't boo the guy. He is trying to save the planet. He is trying to change the tag team division. He is trying to start the tag team evolution. And we've been bitching about the way WWE has been treating the tag team division for so long. Daniel Bryan is essentially doing what we want. So I don't know why we're booing this guy. You can't hate the guy. For SmackDown, the main event for SmackDown was Kofi Kingston versus AJ Styles versus Sami Zayn, which was a really good match. The Sami Zayn did the Blue Thunder Bomb to Kofi Kingston like 5,000 times, and Kofi Kingston kicked out every single time. Of course, birthday boy Kevin Owens tried to come in to cause Kofi Kingston his title. That's when Sami Zayn did the Blue Thunder Bomb on Kofi Kingston, in which he kicked out. There was a great spot where Kofi Kingston did the SOS on both AJ Styles and Sami Zayn. You have to give it up for these three people. I mean, Sami Zayn always put on good matches, so does AJ Styles and Kofi Kingston. So the fact that we got this as a main event, even though it made sense, it was kind of thrown together, but it still made sense. And we'll see what happens with the title at Money in the Bank. Now on SmackDown, Charlotte nor Becky Lynch was there, even though it was advertised it'll be a six tag team women's match. We did get the Iconics weren't even on TV either, even though that they were the tag team champions. I read that they cut a promo during the commercial break, which, women's evolution. We had a match of Amber Moon and Carmella versus Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I thought Amber Moon was supposed to be going after the title. It looks like she will not be going after the title. It just feels like outside of Charlotte, Becky, Lacey Evans, we kind of got somewhat of a weird storyline going on with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, where every time they have a match, after they win, whether they win or lose, then you see Paige come out with Asuka and Kairi Sane, who will stand at the top of the ramp and everybody will stare each other down. I'm hoping that they'll figure something out with the women. It unfortunately feels like the concentration on the women is declining since it is now after WrestleMania. We'll see what happens though. But that is it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Be sure to hop on Twitter and follow me at Jaydee Talks. That's JAYDEE Talks. And follow the podcast at Wrestlebread. Be sure to leave a review. Let me know your thoughts too. And also be sure to check out the Wrestlebread YouTube channel. I'll be putting out some videos very shortly and on a consistent basis as well. Shout out to Julian and Rob Bass from the Wrestling Court Podcast and AlternativeMinds.com. Be sure to subscribe to Alternative Minds YouTube channel. We got Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show, Chris from the We Talk Next podcast, and Chris from Ruthless Rewind. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you catch me next Friday, same time, same place. Peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at Wrestlebread.com and subscribe to Wrestlebread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.